All right, so one thing I'm kind of procrastinating doing a review of the latest Sassy interviews from the Sassy project. That's hashtag SASI. The other thing is I'd only read like a page today, and I hadn't actually watched the video, the footage that these pages would go with. So it's footage that I actually would have cut. Um, but I didn't. So anyway, basically, hopefully you watched the very end of that, and if not, go back and just skip to the last like 30 seconds. We start the section conflicts among time frames. Oh, and I guess I'll put the text here so you can just catch up real quick. So you can pause, and I'm probably flashing it by now. All right, and so we read the first two paragraphs of conflicts among time frames, and then started the third paragraph. We're on page 48, and hopefully you're ready now. Let's go. It figures into any analysis of rationality. All right, let's start at the top of the paragraph. The marshmallow dilemma goes by several names, including self-control, delay of gratification, time preference, and discounting the future. It figures into any analysis of rationality because it helps explain the misconception that too much rationality makes for a cramped and dreary life. Economists have studied the normative grounds for self-control, when we ought to indulge now or hold off for later. When we ought to indulge now or hold off for later, since it is the basis for interest rates which compensate people for giving up money now in exchange for money later. Let me take my gum out. They have reminded us that often the rational choice is to indulge now. It all depends on when and how much. In fact, this conclusion is already a part of our folk wisdom captured in aphorisms and jokes. First, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. How do you know that the experimenter will keep his promise and reward you for your patience with two marshmallows when the time comes? How do you know that the pension fund will still be solvent when you retire and the money you have put away for retirement will be available when you need it? It's not just the imperfect integrity of trustees that can punish delay of gratification, it's the imperfect knowledge of experts. Everything they said was bad for you is good for you, we joke. And with today's better nutrition science, we know that a lot of pleasure from eggs, shrimps, and nuts was foregone in past decades for no good reason. Second, in the long run, we're all dead. You could be struck by lightning tomorrow, in which case all the pleasure you deferred to next week, next year, or next decade will have gone to waste. As the bumper sticker advises, life is short. Eat dessert first. This is great because, I made a video with a guy today, a German guy, who talked about science as being narrowing, and then I was going to read to him from these last few pages, but or didn't. And it's so cool to have Pinker, right, a scientist who is writing a book on rationality and the importance of rationality, and to hear him say, black and white, noir et blanc sur la page, that YOLO, like it's not always rational to you. You heard me hesitate. I had to make sure I was reading that right. That he was saying that they have reminded us that often the rational choice is to indulge now. I was like, wait, is that really what you're saying? So, all right, let's continue. Third, you're only young once. So, yo. It may cost more overall to take out a mortgage in your 30s than to save up and pay cash for a house in your 80s. But what's up, buddy? Bro, bed. Bed. Um, but with the mortgage, you get to live in it all those years. You get to live in it all those years. And the years are not just more numerous, but different. As my doctor once said to me after a hearing test, the great tragedy in life is that when you're old enough to afford really good audio equipment, you can't hear the difference. This cartoon makes a similar point. And the caption says, I don't know what size it is, see, the problem with doing things to prolong your life is that all the extra years come at the end when you're old. You're going to hate me. I have to pause. Listen here. Yes, there has to be a pre-retirement period before you go and tire yourself out. And so well before you retire and you're old, and so then you get a camper, but you're complaining about the humidity all the time. There has to be a pre-retirement. That's before the working period. Could be a deferral between high school and college. So it could be, but I would probably recommend after college and before work, before society work. You have to. Gosh, the world would be just so much better if everybody did a Yum Springer. If everybody had to spend 2 years and they were supported, just like in retirement you get supported. We have some kind of a funding system, some kind of a universal basic income for young people between 22 and 26, where they go do whatever they want. They want to do a band, they can do that full time. They want to travel, they can do that. If they want to write, they can do that. If they want to take classes, they can do that. It should be highly frowned upon that they skip ahead and start doing either their job or their graduate studies. We would have such better people if they took a break from the system after school, after being told what to do and what to achieve for their entire youth. Now their prefrontal cortex is nearly finished developing. And the last 4 years that their prefrontal cortex is developing, from 22 to 26, they're fucking out there living. It's such bullshit, the idea that there are people in the workforce who are complaining about never having taken or had, they'll say, the opportunity to have traveled or to whatever, and they rushed into settling down and life and whatever. And what about the people who kill themselves because they're just pushed along from age 5, and then they're in their 40s, and they never sat back and asked themselves some questions because it was always praised to keep on the treadmill and to keep fucking going. They never looked at another treadmill. They never tried other exercises. So they're absolutely, I don't remember what my term is for it, but I quite like pre-retirement. That's funny. But I also liked the other term I had for it, so I gotta try to remember what that was. Anywho, I have to just write a quick note. So I have to, because I don't want to forget pre-retirement now. That's cute. And gosh, what about your sexual attraction? You just have to go out and not be worried about achievement and deadlines and maintaining whatever track you're supposed to be on. You need to go discover that you're gay, or that you're only happy as a painter, or that you thought that you were going to be a rock star, but actually you'd be really happy as a librarian, and you were in Bali or whatever, and doing some music, and then you went into a library one day, and you're like, holy shit. And you were allowed to just start working in that library for a little bit, because you didn't have to rush home and get back to the job and whatever else. So there has to be there has to be a sacred, culturally sacred time, some period, I think 2 to 5 years, some point in the life, and I think it should be pretty consistent across humans, or at least within a society. think a lot of things would be better if that were the case. And you should see the way people complain when I tell them about me going and living outside or living in a van. They're like, "Oh, I'm so jealous. Oh, blah blah blah. I didn't have the courage to do that, or I didn't get the chance, or I wish I had done that, and now I can't because I'm already locked into this shit. Blah blah blah." So dumb. I mean, no. I hear you, and I forgive you. It's not your fault. It's the system. And the only reason that I didn't do it is because I just couldn't. And I mean, literally didn't have the capacity. And then also, I just was too compelled to not do it. Okay. Carrying on. These arguments are combined in a story. A man is sentenced to be hanged for offending the Sultan and offers a deal to the court. If they give him a year, he will teach the Sultan's horse to sing, earning his freedom. When he returns to the dock, a fellow prisoner says, "Are you crazy? You're only postponing the inevitable. In a year, there will be hell to pay." The man replies, "I figure over a year, a lot can happen. Maybe the Sultan will die and the new Sultan will pardon me. Maybe I'll die. In that case, I would have lost nothing. Maybe the horse will die. Then I'll be off the hook. And who knows? Maybe I'll teach the horse to sing." Does this mean it's rational to eat the marshmallow now after all? Okay, not quite. It depends on how long you have to wait and how many marshmallows you get for waiting. Let's put aside aging and other changes and assume for simplicity's sake that every moment is the same. Suppose that every year there's a 1% chance that you'll be struck by a bolt of lightning. That means there's a 0.99 chance that you'll be alive in a year. What are the chances that you'll be alive in 2 years? For that to be true, you will have had to escape the lightning bolt for a second year, with an overall probability of 0.99 times 0.99. That is 0.99 squared or 0.98. We'll revisit the math in chapter 4. 3 years, 0.99 times 0.99 times 0.99 or 0.99 cubed, 0.97. 10 years, 0.99 to the 10th, 0.90. 20 years, 0.99 to the 20th, 0.82, and so on, an exponential drop. So taking into account the possibility that you will never get to enjoy it, a marshmallow in the hand is worth 1/9 marshmallows in the decade hence bush. Additional hazards, a faithless experimenter, the possibility you lose your taste for marshmallows, change the numbers but not the logic. It's rational to discount the future exponentially. That is why the experimenter has to promise to reward your patience with more marshmallows the longer you wait. Didn't need the emphasis on promise. To pay interest. And the interest compounds exponentially, compensating for the exponential decay in what the future is worth to you now. This, in turn, means that there are two ways in which living for the present can be irrational. One is that we can discount a future reward too steeply, put too low a price on it given how likely we are to see it and how much enjoyment it will bring. The impatience can be quantified. Shane Frederick, inventor of the cognitive reflection test from the previous chapter, presented his respondents with hypothetical marshmallow tests using adult rewards and found that a majority, especially those who fell for the seductive wrong answers on the brain teasers, preferred $3,400 then and there to $3,800 a month later, the equivalent of foregoing an investment with a 280% annual return. In real life, about half of Americans nearing, page 51, retirement age have saved nothing for retirement. They've planned their lives as if they would be dead by then, as most of our ancestors, in fact, were. As Homer Simpson said to Marge when she warned him that he would regret his conduct, "That's a problem for future Homer." Man, I don't envy that guy. The optimal rate at which to discount the future is a problem that we face not just as individuals but as societies, as we decide how much public wealth we should spend to benefit our older selves and future generations. Discount it we must. It's not only that a current sacrifice would be in vain if an asteroid sends us the way of the dinosaurs, it's also that our ignorance of what the future will bring, including advances in technology, grows exponentially the farther out we plan.